Hello and welcome to the Wrestling Headlines Money in the Bank review. My name is Matt Maher, aka Imp, and we are live here on Wrestling Headlines YouTube and on, I don't know why I said that, I've not done this in a while. It's been a little while since I've actually done one of these. So the aim is just to keep my sanity. I would say, watching a wrestling event at this time of night, I can see why Americans actually quite like watching wrestling at this point. You've got energy and everything. For God, you can read your notes without your eyes being blurry. You've had a nice amount of drink. Probably not been cider like me because I know it's a British drink, really. But it's been actually quite lovely. Watching it with a lovely wrestling event, you can actually have your thoughts and say what you want to. And obviously, the English crowd is to my liking. So many kind of like points where I was just like, yeah, got me. Yes. Chanting for the chants that went out throughout the night in the first minute, so I can't actually say a lot of the chants quite yet. But the way that the British crowd rose to this event, oh yes, and we'll get to the John Cena a bit later. But as an Englishman, just seeing that these English pay-per-views still is, the novelty's not worn off yet. We just didn't get them for this period. They weren't a thing. Like British pay-per-views were like a thing in the past where fans would just talk about. It was like, oh, there's that one pay-per-view that WWF did back in the day, and that was it. So like, you check out Insurrection and that's your lot. You got SummerSlam from even further back. Like that's all you got. Well, now we've had Money in the Bank. We've had Clash in the Castle. Obviously got All In coming up from AEW. Then WWE's reaction to that with WrestleMania, a possible announcement for obviously not next year because that's in Philadelphia, but some point further in the time. It's like, oh, if AEW suddenly coming to the UK and sending over 70,000 tickets at Wembley suddenly shakes WWE into giving us more events in that classic when they did that special show at Madison Square Garden, the first All In. And then WWE, and the reason Madison Square Garden did it is like, well, you're not really using Madison Square Garden, WWE. You don't have a stranglehold on us. Which then kicks WWE up a notch to then use Madison Square Garden so they could keep it as their venue. Oh, it's just like, well, if that's now the ground the UK find themselves in, like, oh, no, what a shame. What a shame for the fans. Oh, dear. What am I ever to do? I'll just... Yeah, spoil us. Use us as your battleground. I won't complain one bit. Anyway, I should save that for the John Cena bit. The surprise John Cena that came out. Spoilers if for some reason you're watching this and you've not watched the show. Yeah, John Cena comes out halfway through the show and starts teasing of WrestleMania in the UK. It's like, ugh. Anyway, so first off, I'm going to talk about the show overall, just quick little feelings, and then I'm going to jump over to the main event. To get through the main event before then go through the show in order. It's kind of like how I like to do things on this podcast thing. So anyway, first off, the show overall, for me, I really enjoyed it. Like, I know I was talking to some other people who thought it was fine, but for me, I really enjoyed this. A hot crowd really elevates it. Obviously, I'm English, so I'm going to be biased towards the English crowd being hot, obviously. It doesn't like the actual show itself. For me, both Money in the Bank matches delivered. I really enjoyed both of them. For completely different reasons, and the main event was your level of main event you've been getting from Roman Reigns since WrestleMania. So if you like that level, you're going to be enjoying this main event. If you don't, it's more of the same stuff. Obviously, you look at the crowds and their reactions. There are a lot of invested people, and those who are invested are really enjoying these matches. And this is almost I don't want to say tribute to them, but it's more of a, we are now, for your level of investment, we are now rewarding you. That's what this match kind of felt like. It's the type of thing that WWE, I used to criticise them for not doing. And like Triple H kind of brought it back in the NXT era with some stuff. You'd see it in the intricacy of the way the matches were put together, that it would be kind of like this in the kind of the callbacks and things where you suddenly felt like you were being rewarded for your investment. And at the time, AEW were bringing that in as well. So to see it in WWE in a main event, just this level of pretty much through the actions saying thank you to you for your investment. I was like, yeah, that's great stuff. That's a great way to keep your fans invested with that fan service type of stuff. It's what Marvel were good at in their by the time they hit Endgame and stuff, like that kind of era, that phase of their films. There was lots of little notes and nodbacks and thank yous to the fans. It's like no, we notice these things as well, like little nods like that. The opposite of Game of Thrones. Well, with the writer, one of the writers saying when questioned, "Oh, why didn't Danny think of this?" And the writer just goes, Oh, I guess Danny forgot. And that's in the official HBO documentary. Sidetrack. That's a sidetrack. Yes, that still makes me laugh. But anyway, then a different side to it. And WWE used to kind of be in that, the Game of Thrones side of it, where it was, oh, I guess they forgot. Because they, the writers, they weren't remembering this crap. They weren't following through with any of it. So it kind of just felt like, because I've worded it in some of my notes earlier, that in the WWE summer period, it's often like a lull of building for what's coming next. So it's not normally like your highest points or you don't often get your best matches in this period. This is rebuilding, like keeping certain characters kind of lit and on fire to then have them ready for the SummerSlam or have them ready for the Royal Rumble WrestleMania season. And like in the later years of Vince, this period of the year, like right about here, this would be when I would stop watching WWE, because it was right here where you just get an impression that they'd have absolutely no idea what they're doing. And it wasn't like, I'd often word it as, I'm going to come back for SummerSlam when they've started finding their feet. Because often for SummerSlam, they're directly building for SummerSlam. So they've at least got, even if they don't know what they're doing long term, short term, they've got something to build to, so their TV shows felt a bit more focused. In the late years of Vince, pre-pandemic, like, you got to this period of the year, I want to say from 2015 all the way to 2019, it got worse as time went on. This period of the year just came a little bit like what are we doing here, guys? Essentially, like, what's the plan here? Money in the Bank was all about, and you'd get an oftentimes great show, or at least exciting show, and then back down to the jewels until you get to SummerSlam. Under the Triple H regime, it's just been white hot every event, and I'm trying to think, has it actually died down since? And I guess possibly the answer is technically December, but when I say purposely wound down, it was they actually gave their wrestlers Christmas. What a shame! What a shame! But obviously that was like a longer build all the way to TLC. Anyway, that's a tangent. What do I think of Money in the Bank? So my point being, even though it does tie in, because my main point was oftentimes this has been a period of the summer for WWE where it just kind of dies down a bit, or under Vince he just didn't know where it was going. This is the first time we're getting to see this era under Triple H, and unsurprisingly, it's just as solid. Like, it's just like they know what they're doing, they know what they're building towards. It doesn't feel like that we're watching a company go, oh, this could be a cool direction, and going with that. It feels like they've been setting it up, and this is the direction they're going with these things. It feels a lot like that. Cough, cough. Aside from the Ronda Rousey stuff, which I'll get to. But this show overall felt like them just giving us another confidence boost of, we know where we're going, and we know what we're doing, what we're building towards, all of that stuff. It's just a vote of confidence, like saying that you can have a vote of confidence in us, especially after the Vince years of, well, when you couldn't really have that trust. You kind of knew what they were doing. But it's nice. It's nice to see. It's nice to see. It's nice to have that feeling for the first time properly in a kind of WWE summer lull, just to have that. And that's what this show that's the major positive of this show. You come out of it being thoroughly entertained just as much as you have for all the other kind of Triple H era premium live events, and also you just got that confidence for the future. Where Vince would often deliver like entertaining pay-per-views, they weren't crap, but you wouldn't have faith for the future. You weren't excited to watch the next night of television. You were more expecting the same crap, the same matches to be repeated once again. Whilst here it's kind of like, no, there's stuff bouncing off of this that I'm excited to see, and I've got trust they know where they're going from this as well. Yeah, great stuff. The UK crowd, white hot as hell. The songs were great, obviously. It's cool to see when I interact with Americans and I see their reactions to our songs and the songs that they do at these events. Like, I know all of these tunes that they do, as in it's the ones that we do at our football events. These aren't just like, why are they doing that random song? Like, no, we're conditioned to know all of these tunes so that if somebody starts a chant using that melody, we're there. We instantly know what it is. It's like, oh, are we doing what do they do? I can't wait. I think it was in the Cody match where they did one to come on and do the conga. It's just like, yeah. I know it was Seth Rollins. That was it. They were chanting Seth freaking Rollins. So it's just like, yeah, we know. Come on and do the conga. That's one of the ones that's instantly there in our heads. I don't know how. As I go through the chants in this, I'll be like, I don't know how familiar Americans are with all of these songs, but to us they were hits. We know all of these tunes. So anyway, let's start with the main event. the Bloodline Civil War, Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa versus the Usos. A damn good VTR hyping up this main event. It felt like a massively big deal. It was a really well edited, kind of jumping over certain sections, I think, at the right point to keep the focus on the Usos' story within the Bloodline. It was also really long, that they gave it time to play out, which I also guess fits into the Peacock advert world, which is... Oh, I guess one more note. That at this point, I'm slowly becoming more and more used to the way WWE's asking me to watch these premium live events. Like, I don't know if it's intended, but in terms of like pacing and like editing and production stuff, the way this show is telling me to watch it is to actively leave. It's not recommended. Obviously, I'm going to come back because I'm writing notes on a Word document. Spoilers for but like backstage how I actually do these reviews. Obviously, I'm not remembering everything I wanted to say, but I'll obviously be coming back. But when I watched it's coming back from Forbidden Door last week. For me, that's a really good comparison given they were like back-to-back weekends. Forbidden Door is constantly for AEW trying to hold your attention and keep it. It's like the next thing is immediately coming. It never ever once does it want you to lose attention and stop watching. It wants you to be captivated the entire time. WWE actively tell you to piss off. It's just like, we're going to run adverts now. Have a walk. Like if you're in a like me with my room here with my studio lights and stuff. It's like, yeah, if you want to just go to just like a colder hallway for a bit, just have a little wander. It's like, I'm like, maybe not. I'm not going to go outside because it's in the night time. But still, like, if you want to have a little walk, like make a cup of tea, like just just leave, just leave, get out of the room. And that's how I act. That's how I watch these shows now. I used to use the ad breaks to catch up on my notes, but the ad breaks are because the WWE shows have always had that like ebbs and flows kind of rhythm to their shows, where you would get those kind of like dips in between matches and long periods of nothing. Whilst now I need to get the backstage skits and everything. Whilst now with the PLE era on Peacock, you just get like 5 solid minutes where the adverts are, which nothing happens. And sometimes it'd be there, and then it'd have to be the promo package for when they get back. So you got even more time. So like, I actively leave the room. Like it does mean that these shows are actually quite easy to watch because I'm not sat there having my attention kind of wanted the entire time. I do turn off. I do leave. It does mean when I come back, sometimes I have to get my like attention back. So maybe I've talked to a human. Maybe I've not like fully kept my investment in the show because I'm actively leaving it. That's just like, it's like a little note I've noticed in terms of it may not be their intention. They may want me to watch all the advertisements and things, but the way that the show is produced is it's telling me as an audience member, leave, go away, just get some fresh air, then come back in 5 minutes. It's like, okay, cool, I'll do that, I'll go. Some people just scroll on Twitter. It's like, nah, like for me, it's like it's a little nod to actively get up and move about, which I do, and highly recommend it. For me, that's how you watch a WWE show now. Get up, walk, leave, make a cup of tea. Anyway, so the main event. Yeah, so that's the VTR that I talked about very quickly. The first impression with the fans singing the Usos theme, like for me, that really immediately solidifies their elevation. Like post Bloodline split, like yes, they've got those fans behind them. This is it. This is good, and this is also, I think, not of a Vince era. Because in the Vince era, they get no main event push until they're single stars. Or they don't get this kind of backing behind them until they know they can push one of them as a single star. But obviously, it's Jey Uso just because there is that tie to them. And I don't even know... Because obviously, like with this main event, it's also setting stuff up. It's not just like the explosion happening, look at the explosion. It's like, no. But it is, through the constant references in this match, like they're telling you what's next. It's just like, I love matches that do that. Like as a... how many stars do you rate this match? Like, it is still it's not an Ospreay versus Omega. Like, you're not watching this captivated by the fight. It's more about the characters and the dynamics set up there and the callbacks just to tie the whole story together. Like, and the crowd is white hot for all of it. It was just like, it's so good to see. It's a match playing off of the little details, like making sure that ring is mic'd up to hell to catch soliloquies. Like speaking of, like, the first audio to catch my attention. Let's just do the crowd first. So the first audio to catch my attention was as they started chanting up "Tribal Wanker" really loudly about the entire thing. Other highlights, like if you hate Roman, stand up, followed by the classic, if you hate Roman, sit down, which that pairing is a classic within our football chanting world. Because you think it's done, and then they sit down, and then they pretend the sitting down was also following the orders to sit down if you hate Roman, because everyone's now sat down. It's like, oh, it's good. Yeah, I mean, Americans will know it from the if you hate Gibson shoes off chant that came up a little while ago. Yeah, it's the same vein. It's the same vein. It's a lot easier to do and a lot more common within football grounds. But yeah, so like what I mean by like little details, it's like the Usos making a tag during Roman's he's like that looking up, so he doesn't see the tag happening, and then they catch him with a double spear because he's like not expecting it. It's like little touches like that, and like the pace of the match as well, like elevating really nicely from an initial disrespectful shout from Roman ordering Sikoa no. Like, if you wanted a polar opposite example, so the Baszler heel, no, not the heel turn, but the Baszler turn from earlier in the night, like, this is the polar opposite. Because the Baszler turn, when I get to talk about it, that's not set up in the slightest, comes out of absolutely nowhere and just happens. There's no character set up to it at all. There's seemingly no rhyme or reason or evidence as to why she would do this. It's just a thing that happens that got a huge pop and the crowd were happy to see Ronda lose. So it got a great reaction. But past that, there's nothing there. It generally came out of nowhere. There may be outside reasons why this has happened, but still, it's come out of nowhere. Yeah, but yeah, just the Roman shout ordering Sikoa, no, tag me in, and perfect. It's like in that one moment, it's setting up Solo's motivations were he to ever act on them, whilst also cementing the way Roman's got his hold over the family. Like, proving Jay and Jimmy's point, setting up Sikoa's decision, like, all the narrative notes, him being held into the loop, just one moment, just spinning off it perfectly. And the crowd reaction is also absolutely perfect for the point of Roman's character, where that's at currently as well. Like, he believes he's the hero. Like, we had no choice but to acknowledge him and his greatness for what he was doing. Like, that was him getting his feedback of, even though I'm doing slightly eviler things, or more evil things, evil is not a word, it's like doing more evil things, but it's for the greater good of this company. Well, I've had this company put on my back, and I have to be this person for this company, for my family, for these fans. And that's what he thinks in his head. And like, it's for the greater good. But after everything he's done, the people still turned on him. His blood still turned on him. And it's kind of like, but I did this for you. This is for you're going to turn your back on the family. It's like, because it's one of those where it changes from I'm doing this is for the good of the company to the smaller it's for the good of the family, and then he kind of branch back out again. So the first thing he gets angry at is it's for the good of the family. Then he can lash out at the fans after his family abandons him. It's like, for me, what I was doing was good for the company. It's like, yes. For me, that's the trajectory of it. Is you go from the bloodline split into then Roman having his anger at the fans, and maybe you got then not a long redemption story. Then maybe you got there your kind of arc to then use to twist him being back to a face. It's maybe possible. Another Triple H, I kind of trust that he may do it over a slightly longer period of time, like Roman slowly coming over to, because it's not like a mafia movie where you just kill Roman. That's it, done. The heroes won. Hooray! Segoi! But no, it's not that. It's not that at all. This isn't an anime hero's journey. This is wrestling where the characters will continue. So it's like little bits like that. Anyway, but the best little notes for me within this one are like easily the direct references to past matches. So first of all, like just Roman, where they were heavily talking about Roman stacking Edge and Daniel Bryan years back. Because at first I was just like, oh, it's interesting that they're referencing that all that time ago, and Roman showing his intentions that I'm going to do this and tweeting it out, and like my attention was drawn to the fact that they're talking actively about Daniel Bryan. That's a little bit interesting. That wasn't the point at all. I got distracted by that, so I say good on them, but maybe that's just me getting easily distracted, because what it was actually doing was setting up an absolutely huge pop to a near fall where referees down, Roman and Sikoa hit an amazing spear and Samoan spike combo, and it's just just absolutely selling the fact that this is the moment that he's been talking about. This is the I'm going to beat you with a roll up or an arm. The MJF doing the I'm going to beat you with an arm drag. And like he actively does it. And he beats Darby Allin. That's what we're expecting right here. Roman has said he's going to do it, and then the flow of the match has spun back and forth. Now he's stacking the two of them, just like Edge and Bryan, and then they kick out, and the crowd went absolutely crazy. Like, huge eruption to it, and obviously the match kind of properly flowed from there. Like, so many callbacks to past Uso and Roman matches. Like Roman choking out Jimmy, like the Hell in a Cell I Quit match. Jey Uso kicking out with the forearm to the dick, just like the Clash of Champions match. Like, oh yes, it's just tying back so wonderfully. Also, in terms of like going forward, like the little notes there as well. Like Roman after the Samoan Spike spear combo, like he looks despondent. He's just on his knees with his hands in his head in his hands. Like, what do I do? What do I do? Fingers on the temples, but it was Solo who knew what to do, and he took command in that situation. And it isn't until he's about to splash one of the whichever Uso it was that's on the table, to there where he looked to Roman for like, is this what I'm doing? And gets the kind of order from Roman, and then he does it. It's just like, oh, that's such a great little nod, because without saying anything directly, that is showing us that in that moment, who actually took the lead, and what does that say about Roman's leadership? That's just a nice little note. And that's what I meant by this is a match built of little notes that just make it feel greater, and a lot of it is rewarding you for your investment. Like, just like I was talking about with the references to the Hell in a Cell I Quit match and the reference to the Clash of Champions match, like, if you're not that invested, you're not going to remember that shit. Like, just like, who remembers those matches for like 2-3 years ago? This nerd. But it, I mean, I didn't think I would remember, but then as soon as it happened, it's sort of like, oh yeah, I'm not a lore master of this stuff, but I remembered covering that. I remember that. Oh yeah, I remember those two matches. Yeah, I remember those beats, and it was a match full of that stuff. And for me, like, the reason it's doing it, because when I say kind of Roman's reasoning, kind of like bubbling inwards for what it's about this grander thing, well, it's actually about this more focused thing. And then as this kind of stable explodes and the kind of world around starts to crumble, then it goes back outwards. So like, first off, it's about the families. Like, well, then it can be about the business. Well, it's the same in terms of the focus of Roman's title run, where it starts off with the kind of people on the outside, and then it starts off with sort of the formation of the bloodline, it's the crumbling of the bloodline, and then it goes right back to the focus of Roman and Jey. And this match was setting up Roman and Jey, which I feel like that's just the immediate next stop. Like, or do you do is this the SummerSlam match? Because there's that talk of, do you then go back to Roman losing at this upcoming WrestleMania, no matter, like, depending on, like, whoever it is, be it Sami Zayn, be it Kevin, I mean, it's Cody Rhodes, be it The Rock. I feel like this is a missed opportunity. I feel like The Rock is, in terms of, because if you're doing Roman Reigns versus The Rock, for me that was this WrestleMania, because Roman Reigns wins that match, and even at this point I'm like, no, he wins that match. I don't want The Rock winning at this point. As whoever faces Roman at this WrestleMania is the person who's dethroning him, unless you do it at SummerSlam in a big kind of surprise to Jey Uso. But again, I feel like this win for Jey Uso is the bigger push. Like, I don't think he needs to beat Roman at this point, even though it ties up the arc like perfectly. Like, Roman could either just survive, or you spin Jey into a different storyline, and that's the reason he loses, or whatever. Or you do end the Roman storyline, and it is here with Jey. For me, it's kind of like, in terms of business, they'd probably go Roman losing at WrestleMania rather than SummerSlam. Into like boring outside of booking world. That's why it's like the other elements inside this is like, well, they've got Roman as their big champion. He's not losing outside of a WrestleMania. It's just not happening. It's like Damian Priest, he's not cashing in on him. Like, no, that's for the Raw title. That crap. Like, no, there's no Money in the Bank with Roman. It doesn't exist. It's not a thing. You can world build it. It's fine. You can do the logic of, they're too scared of him. Like, you don't have to put up with the bloodline or with Solo or whatever. Like, you can do that. It's fine. Whatever. It's all right. But anyway, I thought this main event did everything it needed to, and in terms of like setting up the Usos for the future, because the difference with them and Kay and Sami are obviously on a different show. Whilst the Usos still have to deal with all the bloodline stuff, they're still going to be on the same show as Roman. So my massive assumption because the direct point is Jey Uso pinned Roman, and when Solo Sikoa missed his dive onto the announce table, suddenly Roman's stuck with both Usos, and that's where he loses. And suddenly he doesn't have the numbers game, which I think was the other telling thing. Now, without the Usos and only having Sikoa, because the people would when people would run in for the Bloodline, they would get caught. There would be that numbers thing, and where one would be caught, so the other one can then sneak in. But when it's just Sikoa, that protection is so much thinner than it was. And in this match itself, they did really well just to build up the fact that he's still disrespecting Solo Sikoa, and he showed that face that he's not totally happy with it. It's not like the Usos. He's not turning on it. He's still sticking with family. He's still under the grip of Roman. But that thought is there, and it's planted by what the Usos have done. So now he's questioning Roman before doing it, and again here, him actively taking the lead when Roman was despondent. It's it's some good kind of choices shown in there. Anyway, for me, it's a massive thumbs up for the main event. It played off everything, set everything up for the future perfectly as well. I'm looking forward to what they do next. I think it's Roman Jey, because you've specifically had, in terms of the blatantly in front of you. Well, Jey Uso just pinned Roman Reigns. He's the first person to do so in 3.5 years, and they made sure that you knew that before the match. They made sure that Michael Cole repeated it after the match. They made sure just to linger on the Usos to really show that huge crowd reaction, and they focused on the fact that Jey Uso had just pinned Roman Reigns. And it's not Jimmy that does this; it's Jey. It's him. And for me, that's why this is it feels like it's the immediate next thing. So yeah, great stuff. Great. Arguably, you could have predicted this before this match, but that's one of the things where it's they've set this up, so it's good. It's good storytelling, foreshadowing that this is going to happen. That's what I for me, there's two different types of good story. It's good storytelling in that way. So yeah. It's not, that was predictable, when they purposely foreshadowed it so it would make sense for the character to do the thing. Cough, cough, Ronda Rousey. The Rousey Baszler thing. Absolutely no foreshadowing, makes zero character sense because they've not set it up at all. The exact opposite. Anyway, I'm not going to go through the show in order, so starting with the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, ending with I think it was World Heavyweight Championship before the main event. And I realise how long I've talked about that main event, which tells to me that it's definitely done something right when I've got that much to say about it. So yeah, well, they've got their SummerSlam main event going on them. Is Jey Uso going to win? That's another question for another day. I think I've answered it when I say Roman doesn't lose outside of WrestleMania. But in terms of his story, the sole focus from the very beginning was Jey Uso's arc. It's intricately tied to the Roman Reigns story is Jey Uso's story. So you can't tie up the Roman story without tying up Jey's one. And does Jey have to win for his arc to finish? I don't know if he does. Just standing up to Roman and at least being on a level footing with him and really showing him that he is, he could be someone to really challenge him as the tribal chief of this family or whatever. His equivalent, or maybe not his definite equivalent, but someone who could genuinely challenge him, no longer held under his thumb. There's this stuff. I don't know what caps off the Jey Uso storyline within here. What ties it off? Sammy's had his moment, and now his thing is now specifically his story with Roman's finished, but his story with Jey Uso hasn't finished. So you've got those little ties as well. I like it. I like it. Different options. I don't know what my main point is. I don't know what ends Roman's story, but maybe that's half of the point. Is after he's done with Jey Uso, he's just a struggling champion at this point, just surviving by the skin of his teeth type of stuff. I think that's how I do it. Yeah, have him, and maybe even lose Sikoa at SummerSlam, and that's your big pop, something like that. We'll see. Anyway, let's actually get through the show. I need to stop doing random tangents. First off, fancy James Bond intro. Feels like a lifetime ago at this point. Really put the effort in with the shadow people graphics and everything that you get in James Bond intros. Again, yeah, I enjoyed this. It's appealing to me. I'm English. I'll take it. If you're Liv Morgan and you dress up in the Great British flag, it's all right, tone it down. we're not that patriotic. Calm down, love. But over But if you do a James Bond thing to appeal to me, I'm going to nerd out. I'm going to enjoy it. It's because they put the effort in. You could tell that effort was there. It wasn't just like a suddenly thrown together over the weekend idea. Like, no, this took time and effort to make that intro that good. So that's shout out to the production team. Yeah, the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Butch, Nakamura, Santos Escobar, Damian Priest, Ricochet, LA Knight, Logan Paul. A really big feeling to the show right off the bat. The UK crowd at their expected full song, but the lads themselves coming out in that with that it's like extra special show dress and jig, like really set us off on the right foot. And like for me, this kind of match, this is the lineup I like with Money in the Bank. Like Money in the Bank is always at its best when it's got its full like lineup of upcoming talent like this. Like the purpose of the thing is to elevate someone. So why have you booked John Cena to win it? That tells me. I mean, to be fair, that happened in the. Oh no, that's Punk. That's before 2015. God, I was just gonna say in my head that it's the why when you do that, that means that you haven't built anyone up to be a potential winner for the future, which means you're not really building for the future. And you can see it in those years with Randy Orton and John Cena winning. They weren't really building the future in that way. I mean, Daniel Bryan and CM Punk both rose in that space, but they weren't really setting anyone up for like the next phase to be the next upcoming talent. And even even Punk and Daniel Bryan were kind of held back until a certain point where Daniel Bryan could not be ignored. But even then, it was like, no, we're going to do like Randy Orton and John Cena are still our top guys. They're going to stay our top guys, and they couldn't break through that ceiling until suddenly you get Daniel Bryan, where he's completely unignorable, and then John Cena has to leave. Daniel Bryan, who you crowned, has got the problems with his health. So yeah. Anyway, don't have John Cena with Money in the Bank. That was my main point there. LA Knight with your mega pop this time. Huge cheers. Been getting incredible reactions. I guess since WrestleMania, maybe even like coming out of the Bray Wyatt feud. Like in that question of, the Bray Wyatt feud did absolutely no one for anybody. It was just all it didn't go well or didn't really elevate anything. It's a waste of time. Look at these reactions for LA Knight. The Wyatt character, whatever he was doing there, may have definitely stalled and not really kind of gotten going or over. LA Knight, in the kind of backlash of that, has gotten incredibly over. He was the other guy putting all of his effort in to try and make something good of it, and he's ever since the fans kind of respected him, or just continuing on that run. That respect has just built and built, and yeah. Long gone are the days of Max Dupree. Long gone. That's Vince for you. Look what happened tonight under Triple H. He's one of the hottest things. Well done him. Huge mega pop, and also like a great booking for this match, where as soon as Logan Paul enters, 6 lads lamp on him to a chorus of cheers. Like it took seconds for the Logan's a wanker songs to erupt. It's like, yep, we're definitely a UK show. Lots of wanker chants on this night. Butch, the bloke to appeal to the crowd. He's from Birmingham, which to the commentator, for me, this screams American kind of take of our country, where it's just like the London crowd cheering loud for Butch. He trained and grew up only 2 hours away from here. And I'm like, to the UK people, 2 hours to us, that's that's a long way away. We don't like to drive, really. Let me explain that better. Like, we don't like to drive within a certain distance if we can help it. And for us, if something is an hour away, we're like, is it worth it? So, like, making a trip to a city like London from Birmingham, that's considered a relatively big deal to do that kind of trip. Like, unless you're doing it for work on the regular, like, that's not a trip you make a lot. It's not related as close. That's not how you kind of do it type of thing. And it's interesting that kind of when you bring the American attitude to travelling, just because America is vastly bigger. The entire United Kingdom, I think, is the size of Florida, not just England. So it's the size of one state, which kind of proves the point of it makes sense why an American might come here and go, Butch he's only from 2 hours away. He's practically next door. That's not how we see it. 2 hours away. Oh God, he's halfway up the country. It's miles away. But perspective is all about perspective. Anyway, Butch was the one who got that crowd appeal, and he got some great moments in the match as well. An awesome showdown with knackers as well. He got to whip out a cricket bat to a pop, and he got his big moonsault off a ladder moment to the outside. obviously outshined by Io Sky later. But Butch was obviously, I'm going to do like the quicker, cooler version, and then Io gets a jump practically off the top of an even taller one with the awesome shot of production and everything around her. Then Butch gets the kind of cool moment. And that was his role in this one. Logan Paul's role was not the expected or the worried for kind of, oh, he's the sudden brought in star of before. Like, it turns out actually they were playing off of our fears of what Vince did last year with what I'll call terrible booking, where he just injected Austin Theory, where Austin Theory was his guy. He's the Vince man. He's like the final last person that Vince has kind of suddenly got a crush on. He's going to just push to the moon, give all these opportunities to, and he was just suddenly injected into the match. They did Logan Paul in the exact same way, and it suddenly gives you that exact same fear because of what we saw last year. It's like, we literally just saw this where that guy was injected in the last minute and he's the bloke who just comes in and wins. We even saw it with a match Brock Lesnar wasn't even in. Under Vince, it was known that you got your guys for the Money in the Bank match, and then you've got your guys who can just come in and win because nothing's relevant. Wins and losses don't matter, neither does the rest of this match. A bloke can just come in and take it and win. So with Logan Paul, there was just that thing of, oh, is this the same again? Turns out they were using our feelings about last year on purpose. It was all on purpose, and Logan Paul's actual role in this match was to crash into stuff. It was almost like Logan Paul was like, can I be in this match? I was about to relate him to Trish Stratus. What I mean is, I've not done one of these before. Can I do one, please? And they're told yes. But that was Logan Paul's role in this match, was to do these brutal spots. Like, the most brutal one wasn't even, and the table spot was pretty bad, actually. Because I'm going to say the frog splash onto the ladder, that had no give. No give at all, if I would just say. And both Priest and Logan Paul afterwards just like coughing, like they sucked up some of that old London smog just afterwards on the ground. And so I thought that looked brutal, but possibly the Spanish fly that comes later, because like they were on the top of the ladder, then you realise, oh god, yeah, the two tables that were set up earlier. That did really well to make me forget about that until it came to the spot of Ricochet, Logan Paul on the ladder. I thought they were going to go for the ladder gets knocked over, and then you just both bounce on the ropes through the tables. Turns out the plan was the ladder would be pushed over, they'd catch themselves on the ropes, then Ricochet hits the Spanish fly. I don't know if it was meant to springboard, like to be properly like one smooth movement or smooth as possible. It could even just be fall down, catch, then jump and spring. What actually happened was it felt like the ladder was too far away. It caught on a lower rope, which then made them keeping their footing difficult. And they're both just wobbling on the ropes. Ricochet with incredible balance, and you can tell this is where the experience came in. Where both guys are athletic, both guys can balance on the ropes, but Ricochet with just that experience to know how to still kind of be able to try and keep it going and not completely lose your balance in a moment like this. Like, that experience was just there. And Ricochet also massive props, because the way that he kind of protects Logan during this as well, just to tuck his head at just protect him, to twist the momentum in the air, so it's actually perfectly safe. Well, not perfectly safe, you know what I mean, still doing a springboard into it. It's not perfect. It looked scary, but when you actually watched it on the replay, you realise how great a job Ricochet actually does. So well done, Ricochet. Yeah, sometimes I have a nerd out moment where I suddenly realise a wrestler's done a really cool thing to perfectly momentum swing in the air to make it safe as safe as he can. It's like, oh yeah, I noticed that on the replay. Great stuff. Some really inventive spots in this match, like Knackers and Ricochet finding a way to do a sliding German spot off a second rope draped ladder. It's like some really great spots in this one. The women's match as well had a similar thing. For me, it was a match that did an amazing job in elevating the lads involved whilst also avoiding the pull of just giving the thing to Logan Paul, or it could be in the background of his podcast. Instead, they just let the guy have fun with his big spots in the match. Seemingly that's what he wants to do. And like using that to lift up the likes of Damian Priest and LA Knight especially. Those two came out feeling like really big deals. And I feel like if there's two things coming out of this show in terms of the men's singles division, LA Knight is incredibly over. I guess the other one's Jey Uso, I forgot about that. But LA Knight is incredibly over. And Damian Priest has been established as a dangerous presence. They've done really well both guys got elevated from this match. Even though one won, they did a really good job to elevate them both. And I think just avoiding the pull of Logan Paul has really helped that. If Logan Paul wins, I don't think you can also managed to elevate Damian Priest and LA Knight in the same way. I think they've done a really good job. Anyway, it's time to talk about the heel turn. Right winners, or I'm going to say right winner. For me, LA Knight or Damian Priest, I was happy with either, because both have got great trajectories on either of their shows. For me, the biggest reason for LA Knight to win was to get him off of SmackDown, where he can't really go past a certain point, and get him over to Monday Night Raw, where it feels like for a character like him, there's actually room for... There's a slot for him, I feel like, on that show. Whilst on SmackDown he's massively over, but I don't really know where he's got to go. Like, do you give him a United States Championship run, which is currently doing nothing with Austin Theory? He's had a really long reign, but a long reign of nothing. So maybe you just give it to someone like LA Knight, who's incredibly over. Just let him have a title run to test him out, and Gunther, not Gunther style, but just in the, we'll give you this to see if you could do like a main event type thing down the line. We'll see. Anyway, the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler versus Raquel Rodriguez. She's got her back, and Liv Morgan. She wore UK gear. Like, all right, cheap pop Liv in UK gear. Baszler turning on Rousey out of nowhere to a huge pop from the crowd. Them simply happy to see Ronda lose, and then realising that was going to happen. Huge cheers. Not something built up at all. Like, it just feels random. It feels out of nowhere, and that there's that sudden surge of, oh, that person we don't like, they're going to lose. Oh, yes. But in terms of, after this, the base is going to have come out on television, but she's got no pre-built motivation for her turn. So it's generally just out of nowhere. It suddenly gives a reason for this match to be on this pay-per-view, because beforehand I was just like, it's just otherwise just a standard affair. Like, it's fine. It's all right. It's a perfectly fine addition to the list of perfectly fine WWE Women's Tag Team Championship matches. It was definitely for me at the better end of that list, because people involved were just talented enough, and it was really aided by the hot crowd. But it was still, standard affair. Suddenly this happens, like, oh, there's a big reason, there's a big thing that's happened here. There's a reason for it to be being on this pay per view. Okay, cool. But also they didn't build the turn up at all, which screams either that this was a late last minute decision type of thing, which is why it's not been built up over the past weeks. It's because it was decided very recently, or they just didn't decide to build it up Vince style and just decided on whim to do it or whatever. It's like, yeah, sure, we'll just do it. We're not going to build up to it. We'll just do it. The surprise, that'll get them. Like, well, no, I much prefer the main event. I'm fully ready for Solo Sikoa to do his turn, because they've told me why his character would do that. And you've held off here so that he can do it in a surprise. Just like exactly the same thing with Jay and Jimmy. They told us why they would turn before then letting them turn, which is significantly more impactful than what we've seen here. However, the one possibly forgiving space is the rumours I've heard from the MMA side of stuff, where there's a rumour. I'm going to keep saying rumour because this is tied in with this, and obviously speculation flies when something this random happens. We're used to this under the Vince era. Under this era, it's kind of like, oh, something happened. But there's a chance that UFC might be doing Ronda Rousey versus Holmes again, and this is why Ronda Rousey's had to step away suddenly. It's obviously got to get into shape for that. So that's possibly the reason why they've done it. It's like, okay, cool, that's the reason this has happened. It does mean, did you know about this in advance or not? It's part of the thing. Did Ronda just make her mind up now, and suddenly it's quite a short turnaround of, well, she's got to go train. There isn't time. They need to do the titles. She needs to get off TV. They could just lose the titles, and she could just disappear. I think that was fine. I don't know if I'm wrong there, but in terms of the momentum of what was happening on television and everything, I kind of felt like if they were to lose the title, Baszler would have to go as well. At least this gives Baszler something to do. That's probably the better impact, actually. Oh, yeah, let's leave it there. He says, actually, the better outcome, if you specifically want to give Baszler something to do, because if Ronda just leaves and Baszler turns on TV without Ronda, it can just feel a bit weird and people will be questioning it. But now you're not questioning it immediately off the bat. Baszler's got some heat to work with whilst Ronda's away. There's that. Cool. And if Ronda's not leaving immediately, then on television, Shayna Baszler can reinforce the turn and just take her out, and then she's gone for a while. Oh yeah, there's stuff. Also, big pop from me for the crowd calling for VAR after a baddie Baszler illegal interference. People in the crowd go, VAR. Yes, check the screen. Yeah, big pop from me. Speaking of big pops, Gunther versus Riddle. Oh, I love Gunther. Ah, yes, for the Intercontinental Championship. The UK fans normally sing Gold by Spandau Ballet, but to the tune of but replacing the word gold with bro. Like, always believe in your bro. It's what they normally do. However, there was none of that here. Because it's fair to say that right now, Gunther is the much more over entity. They're not even close. Like, the trajectory of Riddle, I kind of felt like, because, I guess because he got in his own way, the momentum that he had has kind of dissipated, and he just doesn't have that right now. And Gunther has, in that meantime, Gunther has absolutely soared. He's on a meteoric rise as it goes right now. Just doing great stuff. And Cole, just to like cement that this is like another moment in cementing of Gunther. Like, Cole was doing his job to put over the respect the O2 were showing to the champion, like because of his work on the past work in London, the past work at the indie scenes. Like, it certainly felt strange hearing Progress Wrestling and the Electric Ballroom referenced on a WWE pay-per-view. But there we go. Yeah, they were using it to really solidify that. No, this place has a respect for him. Like, it's not. It's closer to a hometown match almost feel for Gunther because of that compared to like him. That we need to explain why it's wacky Canada, or well, they don't know what to do. They don't know what they're doing, or what they're chanting for the heels for. What they're like, wacky Canada. It's like no. There's a genuine reason why they would respect Gunther. Like, he's got a history in this town. It's like, you know what? I'll take that. I'll take that. It works. I'm still. Even though it's been years now, I'm still getting used to WWE referencing that other wrestling exists. Because under Vince, it was you don't mention any wrestling either. Even the ones under their umbrella, like they would never mention Evolve. But with the acquiring of the UK wrestling stuff, they started to mention a little bit. But to get a full mention on a pay-per-view still feels weird. I'm not used to it. But this was a solid physical match, like, which is the bare minimum expected with a Gunther match. Like, his incredible intercontinental resume so far. But Riddle was a great opponent. Like, he kind of excels in this kind of environment. The guy to take a loss like this from Gunther, like, he's a perfect guy for that. Like, love the finish too. Gunther chopping the injured ankle and straight into the knee bar. Like, Gunther just doesn't have bad matches. I love that logic there. Just he's put a target on it. He's just going to slap it viciously and then put you in a knee bar. It's like, yeah, great stuff. But that was building to a huge pop afterwards. In a very pleasant surprise, Drew McIntyre returns for his first sighting since WrestleMania. Here's me with my all-in tickets thinking, oh God, is he going to... Am I going to get Drew McIntyre? And then the news comes out that he's going to... like, well, if he was to get his contract not renewed, he wouldn't be free for All In. And there's still talking that he might leave anyway, so might get Drew McIntyre for AW at some point, was what I was thinking. No, they went out of their way to just let you know, nope, he's staying. The rumours of him going, completely untrue. He walks on in to stare down the IC champion. And this is the first time we've seen him since WrestleMania. It's in the UK as well. His home nation, to a huge applause. And like giving Gunther a stare down and a wee Glasgow kiss and Claymore to pose with the title. Just really making its impact immediately. Gunther's going to face McIntyre next. Like, oh, yes. In SummerSlam, if you've got Roman versus Jay and you've got Gunther versus Drew, it's already shaping up massively. I don't know what else you've got. Cody versus Brock 5 or whatever on by that point. Oh, there's some good stuff bubbling in WWE at the moment. But just like also making sure just to have Cole just stay, McIntyre staying, and it's like, okay, cool, we're building to something here. He's gonna generally be back because he kind of felt like he got drafted to Raw, and we've not seen him at all. So just that feeling of, oh, was it one of those where you get drafted and then you just don't appear? The draft is then kind of used to just write you out because there's a new feel to the show anyway. So all the new faces and the kind of way they all merge together is taking concentration away as it is, so you can get away with, we can also then just release some people. But no, that's not what happened at all. He's staying. he's back. So they're going to get McIntyre back on Raw again. On to Cody Rhodes versus Dominic Mysterio. Oh, obviously I enjoyed the Gunther match, what to say. Like, it wasn't exceptional or anything. It's not... If you're like, was this another Gunther match that I have to see? The answer is no. But if you want to watch an entertaining Gunther match, here it is. This is your Gunther match for the evening. Anyway, Cody Rhodes versus Dominic Mysterio. This is your sports entertainment match of the night. Dom aided by Rhea Ripley. Dom getting amazing heat as always. The crowd love to cheer him, which no is not the same as the crowd's genuinely despising Don Callis in AEW. For me, Don Callis is getting the best heat out of anybody in wrestling right now. The major difference is the fans genuinely shower him with hate, whilst with Dominic Mysterio, the fans love to boo him. It's not hatred with Dom. They enjoy to boo him. They don't boo him because they hate him. They're two different things. I mean, still good to hear. They're still the two great atmospheres. They are different. It may be you're being a bit, come on, Matt. Does it really matter? It's like, I don't know. I like to kind of analyse it in that way of they're both great, but they're great for different reasons. Cody, one of the biggest faces the company has, also getting an amazing reaction, and the UK crowd doing the whoa. Yep, obviously he's got to pay attention for that bit. Arguably, for me, this is an absolutely perfect time for these two to meet, like in the middle of a WWE pay-per-view, during the company's annual summer building lull. Like, if you're going to do Cody Rhodes at his peak, or where you're building him up to get him, peak popularity, but you're having to build him up into the character momentum-wise. And then you got Dominic Mysterio, who's a young un, who's getting great reactions, but is obviously needing experience of rising up. Yeah, put them in the middle of his pay-per-view. It's great for everyone. Cody gets to keep his momentum. Dominic gets some much needed experience doing stuff like this. So yeah, great stuff. And I love the idea of Dominic coming in feeling like, oh yeah, lying to people about being kept in the Tower of London, wearing like a sachet of bullets. Probably don't call it a sachet, but make it a bit more like gruff. But anyway, he comes in with his bullet sachets, and Rhea Ripley looking awesome as well by his side with the Women's Championship, and it's built it the way that he's kind of presented himself. But the way it just works perfectly is the second the fight actually starts, he pisses off down the ramp. He legs it, and Cody has to track him down. It's like, oh, I just love it. It's almost he tries to show toughness and strength for a brief second, and he will chat crap at you. But then, as soon as the fight actually gets going into right, okay, now it is actually a competitive match now. He's off. He has none of that kind of honourability in him. He is going. So yeah. Well, that's kind of what I like about this kind of match being on this point of the show is like in this era, in this time of the year under the Vince era, like you often felt like it had no idea where the shows were going long term. It was just stuff happening from pay per view to pay per view, and he had no trust that they were building anything for the future. It was just things happening, and then one point they'll eventually just decide to elevate someone up. And they wouldn't really the work wouldn't really be put in, really. Like if they decided that we're going to build somebody up, they'd give them wins and such. But it wouldn't really feel like their character was. It would be struggling to get behind them. Sometimes they do it, but it didn't quite. It wasn't consistent. But this is what I mean this is what I want it to feel like. This Money in the Bank show, like this match right here, what they're doing with this match is like that. This is the trust I'm talking about. Keeping the Cody fire burning, rebuilding his momentum for the next show, and you're giving Dominic both his character and himself this much needed match. It's like yes. Song update as well. Singing Cody Rhodes to the tune of Daddy Cool. Thumbs up. Another common chant the crowd's getting behind him. Again, all of these chants are common in football, so that's why they catch on in the crowd, because everybody knows these songs. These are all common. And yeah, another great one. It was another perfectly fine middle of the card match. Nothing special, nothing crazy. But it has like one true it was one truly elevated by the crowd, even though it's still technically just fine. Like the crowd's great in this match. And you have a fun time watching it. But you're not going to remember the actual match once it's done, because the thing you will remember is the crowd. The crowd are great. They're so incredibly hot for Cody. They're so enjoying booing Dom, and they just have fun with the match, and you have fun then watching it because of it. But the match itself is a pretty straightforward affair, but because of the crowd, it's enjoyable enough. So yeah. Now, surprise John Cena. Let's get to this bit. Maybe I should have done this because I was already talking about it earlier. I've already kind of nipped at the idea a little bit, but this got an absolutely thunderous reaction because there were like rumours possibly of little things like Drew McIntyre wasn't entirely out of nowhere, even though it was unexpected. John Cena, legit, no rumblings at all whatsoever. I'd heard through one grapevine that they thought they saw John Cena in where did they see them? Croydon. That was it. I thought I had heard through one grapevine that they'd heard that someone had seen John Cena in Croydon, which is an area in London, and that's it. That's all I'd heard. There's no other rumblings. Nothing through official sites, nothing through anything, or like I didn't even mention it to the kind of groups that I'm in, and I didn't say anything just because I heard one rumbling from one person who knows someone. So it's kind of like that's why I called it the grapevine. Like it's vining off in quite far different ways. But so I just caught me off guard. I was like, oh, not only he was in Croydon. Was my immediate reaction. The O2 absolutely exploding when Cena's music hit. A genuine surprise. A return that nobody had on their cards. The promo itself, as it starts, it's your classic Cena promo praising the crowd. We're kind of getting the crowd amped up to then be really ready for the next bit. He is the perfect guy for this. Getting the crowd so loud and behind him as he's praising them. It's the same John Cena promo, but it works every time. And here it is working again. And he was the perfect guy to do this announcement, or like tease, like really hyping up the crowd as he then teases a UK WrestleMania, getting the crowd to cheer as loud as they can to show no, a UK WrestleMania could work. And obviously the outside kind of thing is, as I look at this again, it's like AEW getting 70,000 in Wembley didn't go unnoticed. WWE have likely seen that and going, well, if they can do 70,000, then we can definitely sell it out. I'm assuming that's their take on it because that's the WWE mentality. So I'm assuming they're like, well, we can run WrestleMania at Wembley and we'll definitely sell out 90,000 tickets because AEW, this smaller pissant promotion, they did 70,000. I'm assuming that's their mentality. But hey, like, if my country is the playing ground for this, like, yeah, if it's to my benefit like this, keep shaking them, Tony. Keep doing shit like this. Like, if there is suddenly like a battleground just to keep running big shows in the UK, like, I mean, as a fan, it's like, oh, I'm afraid I'm just gonna have to buy tickets to things and enjoy events. Oh no, you go on the internet and it's you got to buy us against WWE, you got to buy us against AEW. It's like if there's WrestleMania in Wembley, yes, I have all in tickets. I'm also going to WrestleMania. Like, this is the thing. The segment then you have to then build to you if John Cena hits a after adjustment on somebody, not nephew, on somebody. Out comes Australian Grayson Waller, knowing exactly how to get the heat in the UK. Well, how about we have WrestleMania in Australia, mate? Knowing exactly how to get the heat from the Ukraine crowd. Just saying WrestleMania in an Australian accent, they're like, nah, piss off. And WWE, they've done big teasers before, but the difference now is that Nick Khan's WWE really has made a push in the emphasis to be truly international. And for me, it's a push that's really pushing off, in my opinion. Like, every one of these shows after WrestleMania has felt like it's had its own identity. Well, before, like with Vince, they just blend together. There's no difference between for any show outside of Money in the Bank, any summer show, be it like United Champions or whatever, like your paybacks, whatever you want. Like, there's little to distinguish those summer shows outside of Money in the Bank in between WrestleMania and SummerSlam. Whilst now, like, Backlash and Night of Champions had distinctively different feels, being that one was in Puerto Rico, one was in Saudi Arabia, Money in the Bank was in London. Like that push to be truly international for me has really paid off. I want to say something from my perspective is that's really, really helped. I don't know how the American market will react, because obviously they get SummerSlam, they get the big ones, whilst the littler ones then go international, which gives them a bigger feel, but they are the more minor shows, but they feel bigger because they're going to crowds that have been starved of this stuff and they're going to be loud in reaction for it. For me, it's an idea that's really worked. I'm much... Like, it's one of the things of not everything Nick Khan has done has been bad. Like, no. For me, the push to be truly international is a massive positive, and it's massively, and it really has paid off. Compared, I'm not a bigger fan of the product integration. Like, on this night, it was less offensive than WrestleMania. It's fair to say, but also just Bud Light crowning winners. I was like, I swear to God, if Bud Light congratulates every winner on this show, then it will be a meme. It didn't go that far, but for It does mean it kind of took away from Damien Priest's moment because you have to almost immediately go to the Bud Light commercial. It's like, well, Cody Rhodes has won this match, but Bud Light is easy. Enjoy this replay with Bud Light. Bud Light's easy. It's like, I don't like product advertisements when my attention to the actual wrestling story you're telling is at its peak. At least I didn't do that for the main event compared to last time. Good God. Mike's Lemonade. Get out of here. Get out of my WrestleMania main event tag team match, Mike's Lemonade. Anyway, now that's 2 things to talk about. The women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Bayley and Io Sky, Zelina Vega, Zoe Stark and Trish Stratus, and Becky Lynch. I really enjoyed this one as well. I thought both Money in the Bank ladder matches delivered in completely different ways. Off the bat, for me, when I say I'm a little biased, as soon as this match started, I was enjoying the dynamic of you got 2 sets of aligned players, which is giving us a immediately unique feel to Money in the Bank. Because often you've had one team be aligned, and then you've got maybe allies, but in this case it's 2 genuine what you would call teams because they are strongly aligned. You've got Stark and Stratus though that are the fresher team, closer aligned in their goals, whilst the little frictions between Damage Control gradually show their faces more and more as the match goes on. There's been those tensions, but as the match progresses, they become a bigger and bigger problem and, explode. So the additional dynamic of then you got strange pairings to overcome, like the other where the other duo when one of your lasters is down. For example, Becky Lynch temporarily having to team with her enemy Trish Stratus to fight off Bayley and Io as they team together. So, and then later on, Bayley and Io have their little tiff. It's like, yes. Let me just say as well, my God, Trisha's selling is incredible. The last bumps like nobody else, bringing a lot of inventive spots to the match as well. I wouldn't say they all came off, but the fact that she was trying stuff like that's the kind of thing that I appreciate. It's like, as long as I can see what you go for, or at least I was like, no, what, that was really innovative. It doesn't have to be perfect. So, yeah. Oh, I mean, look at Ricochet Logan Paul. That was not perfect, but I appreciated what they were going for. When Trish came back for WrestleMania, I never expected to see her take a manhandle slam off the announce table onto a ladder. I'm like, you're Trish Stratus. You're going to come, you can maybe have one match, and it's going to be entertaining enough. And it's like, it's a little legend kind of match, and it'll be fun enough, and you get your pops, and off you go. It's like, no, here she's taking ladder bumps and everything, just like she's an active part of the roster. It's like, whenever I watch Trish wrestle, I'm like, I can't ignore that I want to just appreciate this, that I'm getting to see this. I just have that reaction. Maybe because she was a wrestler that I saw a little bit of, because she was at her peak when I wasn't really watching I'd see it every now and again at my friend's house. Her posters were on my friend's walls because they watched the wrestling, but I didn't really start till 2005. So by the time I started watching, there's not many years left of Trish. So I didn't get to see peak Trish. I got to see great runs from Trish. I was watching for the Trish Mickey rivalry and stuff like that. So to get to see her here, I feel like I'm really appreciative of that, just because I didn't really see a lot of Trish when I was first getting there. Anyway, also Io getting a big, in terms of the spots for everybody else, Io getting her big moonsault off a ladder spot, awesomely shot with the vertical cam looking down. The production was all there to make this look as cool as possible, which is why when I talked about Butch earlier, his was a quick little cool moment. Hers was, no, we are focusing on this. So they're focusing, and we're going to shoot and produce it as best as we can to really make it look awesome. Well, Butcher's, it's a cool move. This is shot awesomely for you to think she's awesome, which is, So it's just a little note, and it works. Well, first off, she's awesome anyway. So then when you give it the production as well, it just hammers it home. It's like, okay, this is our winner. Zelina Vega and Zoe Stark as well, nailing a perfect code red off a ladder. It looked incredible. Because I noticed the ladder wasn't exactly straight when they're going up. I was like, I hope they're not going to do a bump on the ladder spot. Maybe it's just there for Zoe Stark to run up on and they'll knock each other down. Someone else will come up. But no. Zelina Vega hitting. For me, it was perfect. It was so well done. Well done to both of you. You both nailed that. An incredible ending as well. Io, I love the ending. Io Sky, the only woman in the ring after Carnage. But Bayley pushes the ladder over to cost her. Suddenly Damage Control done. And he's just like, well, when that moment has happened, that's the big pop. That's your closing to the thing. Io Sky's not down. Bayley climbs the ladder, wins. Building really well to us thinking that she's stolen the win. Only for Becky Lynch to stop her with a handcuff to the mouth because Trish Stratus was trying and Zoe Stark were trying to handcuff Becky Lynch, but ended up in a big brawl. That's why they were all down. She comes back with the handcuff still on her, so she uses the not linked one to then just hook the mouth of Bayley and pull it, guide her down the ladder. And you kind of like, oh, well, that could be a little bit cheesy. However, that then means when it gives Io Sky enough time to get back up, and she locks them together through the middle of the ladder, so neither of them can get up. As she climbs over Bayley, takes down the Money in the Bank briefcase, and wins. She's celebrating. Lynch and Bayley are just looking like, I lost the match. In the middle. Io holding the Money in the Bank briefcase up high. And for me, this was such a great way to give Io the briefcase, solidify her as a face while she's holding it, and immediately give her something to spin off of it in the form of the rivalry with Bayley. Whilst, like, we've seen it a few times in the women's division where they get the briefcase and there's so little for them to do outside of them having won the case that they immediately cash it in, or they cash it in within a couple of weeks. Whilst this feels like, no, you can have Io hold this for a bit because you can do a rivalry with Bayley first. I think that's what I would do. Just immediately have this happen. And even just do it as like, well, Bayley's not going to let her cash it in, or they have a feud or something. I don't know what the dynamic's going to be, but it was, or you could pretend to be a friend or whatever. Anyway, there's different avenues you could go on, but for me, this screams this could easily be the first women's Money in the Bank holder in a while that genuinely holds the Money in the Bank for a bit. Just have her hold it, build her up. Don't do the thing of with Austin Theory where you. Well, they call it Austin Theory, that's just the most recent one, but they did it all the time, WWE, where they have the person who's got Money in the Bank just lose. And the logic is, well, they can lose because they're about to get a massive win. It's like, yeah, but you want me to buy them as a champion, which then means you've given me all of these losses so that because they're getting this big moment. Because of like crowd reception, but I want to believe them as a champion. It means you've now got a champion who's not believable because he gave them a run of losses before they won. So you have to build them up afterwards. Like, no, if you have Io hold it for a while, give her wins, then when she cashes it in, it's like, yeah, this is deserved. Type of stuff. But as we learned with The Miz, they'll chant it regardless. You don't have to deserve anything. You can just do it. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm a massive fan for the booking of this match, and I found it really enjoyable as well. I thought both Money in the Bank matches delivered in completely two different ways. This was less like crazy spot type of stuff and more just, I loved the dynamic of it and the kind of different character flows that it went through. For me, yeah, I was a big fan. The final match to talk about, it is really hot in here. I can see that what I used to hold my hair up is failing now. So the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor in his spooky mask. In absolutely no surprise to anyone, these two lads had a damn solid, fast-paced title match. Like that style mixed with an element of brawl brought by Balor worked really well together. Elevating really nicely too throughout it, with both lads going for that big hit, but also still having the energy to fight back at pace, which made just the flow of it is really difficult for anyone. And then suddenly Seth Rollins has found his edge. He manages to hit a pedigree through like the constant reversals of each other. He manages to hit that pedigree. Suddenly he's got something he can work with. But now comes Damian Priest holding the Money in the Bank briefcase. This is our first official tease as he runs down the ramp and then just stands there and it's like, okay, is he here to aid Balor at ringside or whatever? But he catches Rollins' attention, slowly sits down on the chair. That's enough time for Balor to recover. And the thing I just like, the way Priest was holding it and just the aura he had around him was like, I was immediately loving the feeling of danger that Damian was bringing as he was holding that briefcase. Like, often you kind of feel like they've got the briefcase and they're going to win or da-da-da, just expecting it. But there was a genuine feeling of danger when he was holding that briefcase. Like, oh, you truly believe when this man cashes in that he's going to win. It doesn't feel like there's a question about it. And it's just like a really cool aura to have about him. Like, he didn't get a thing of, oh, pop, surprise, I don't know. Like, no, it's genuinely felt, oh, you don't want to be cashed in by this guy. Who is that? Like, his presence was enough to distract, but and Balor then gets the awesome run. But a split-second decision from Priest to stand up accidentally caught Balor's attention, and that was enough for Rollins to snatch a win. And that was all built up on Monday night, on the past few Raws has been built up where Priest and Balor are kind of hiding the fact that they're not 100% gelling, that there is some animosity there, and maybe this is the explosion. You saw them arguing after the match. Like, this is the explosion where they actually confront that. Be the ending what it is. And I've thought for a while, could you build the Judgment Day as a group that constantly kick out that fourth member, like every year, like pass judgment on them or something? It's in the name. Like, I feel like that's cool enough to work. And I feel like you could run with that, possibly, for me. Because I feel like Dom, Rhea and Priest are integral currently. But that fourth member, where it was Edge and where it was Balor currently, I feel like you could easily have the others pass judgment on them and kick him out. I'd like that. I'd like that. But yeah, he felt... Damien Priest feels like a great Money in the Bank holder. And them now building that animosity between him and Balor. Because I don't know if they're going to turn him face. I kind of like a heel Priest. I don't think I need him to turn. But if you're going to do him versus Balor, well, Balor's not going to be the face. So I guess that's that. But I want him to stay in Judgment Day. Well, then he got 2/3 of Judgment Day being face. And to be fair, they've built Judgment Day as a faction where Rhea Ripley in her matches can be massively cheered and really get that awesome respect shown to her. But as soon as she's with Dom, immediately both of them are heel magnets. And so it's shown, like with Priest, he could do the same. There's given that dynamic of where it somewhat feels like a tweener, just because he gets that reaction of respect. But as soon as he's paired with Dom and they're all together as a group, they all get booed. But separately, there's those cheers of respect. Yeah, it's a nice dynamic. It's unique. WWE don't often do that. And I feel like, again, on Triple H, there is that built-up trust that he can slowly put the pieces together to make it work. Or you just swap out Balor for a fourth person. Or whatever. What's JD McDonough doing since getting brought up? Yeah. But anyway, so his presence was enough to distract, and then Rollins snatches the win with the stomp. Balor may have lost, but at least Bud Light sees he. Immediately onto the replay. But this win is brought to you by Bud Light. Bud Light congratulates Seth Rollins. Bud Light is easy. Oh, and a quick song update. Final thing was, singing "Come On and Do the Conga" with the da Seth freaking Rollins. Do the tune of "Come On and Do the Conga." Oh, the other rule is, and I broke the rule just then. The rule is you take out all of the tune, so it's the da Seth freaking Rollins. Seth freaking Rollins. Don't do the da Seth freaking Rollins. No, none of that extra notes shit. Get out of here. It's all monotone, same thing, a droll or whatever. So yeah, take out all tune when you do a chant. I broke the rule. I apologise. Apologise to my people. Anyway, yeah, another common chant in our football stadiums. You sing a footballer's name to it or whatever. So yeah. Anyway. And for me, that was a solid main event. It was a solid title match, but I'm not going to really remember it. It was more like it was doing good work to set stuff up for the future. Establish Damien Priest with the briefcase. Kind of move along with the Judgment Day and their kind of tensions that they've got. That is they've been teasing that there might be problems, but they've been kind of covering it up for the good of the group. But I feel like now it will have to be addressed. It will be brought to the forefront. And what a way to do it with Balor slipping, having failed, and Priest kind of climbing up. I feel like they've got stuff to work with there. Could do Balor Priest at SummerSlam, or you could like the last straws of the tension snapping at SummerSlam, and that's when you do them turning on Balor. Like, there's multiple ways you can go about it, but for me, it was a perfectly fine match. That said, for me, there's enough positives for Money in the Bank to recommend it. There is enough there. Again, the two Money in the Bank matches deliver, which is almost like integral to these. If one doesn't deliver, then you immediately wave on the show, but they both did. And the main event is your Roman Reigns main event that you've been getting since WrestleMania. So if you like that, you're going to love this. It's just more of that stuff. Surprised John Cena got an amazing reaction. So that's the other thing as well. I can say that there are 3 matches that I'll possibly kind of go back to or whatever, or I would highly recommend. But the show overall is lifted by the hot crowd. And that means so much. So in terms of like elevating it elevates the entire thing. So kudos to them. Matthew thumbs up. Anyway, my voice is going. I need to get to bed. But Matthew thumbs up for Money in the Bank. And I also like, even though because I don't do Saudi Arabia shows and I wasn't available to do Backlash, they both would have got thumbs up for me as well. They've been on a great streak since WrestleMania. Just having these shows just like have the stuff that matters has really, really helped them. And it's playing to the home crowds as well each time makes them feel so unique and special in between each one. So that means a lot. And these shows have really benefited from it. And now we're already building to SummerSlam. I don't know if there's a show in between, but with because they've split them out a bit. It works. We've got SummerSlam's in August, so we've got that to look forward to. Anyway, with that, I say thank you for watching, liking, engaging in any form, any manner. Always appreciated, never taken for granted. What did you think of Money in the Bank? Are you on high as it as I am, or the little things? But just break apart anything I've said. You're wrong, Imp. Tell me I'm wrong. Anyway, with that, I bid you adios.